where. Yep. And well, they should call it here. Yeah. Right. All right, here we go. Welcome into the Illini Nation pregame show. Bret Beherns and Derek Piper, the big guys, back here for our home matinee, I guess you could say. Illinois and Iowa 1:15 on Big Ten Network. Derek, and the Illini looking for a better showing. I don't know how it can get much worse defensively. You allow a Penn State team to score 90. Look, it ain't great. Where do you want to start with in terms of what the defense is and how this team tries to respond?
Well, to frame it, you could say that Penn State scored 49 points on the road against Nebraska the previous game. They were without their leading scorer, and Kanye Clary, who was just missing the team. And then it's almost like Jalen Pickett and Andrew Funk walked through that door. Of course, they didn't, but you would have thought so if you would have looked at the box score and saw 90 points against the Illini. So just a variety of issues. Pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. There was no intensity, no bite at the defensive end. And this is something that's been building for Illinois over the last almost 2 months now, where they've really taken a huge step back and trended in the wrong direction defensively to now where you can pretty much say they're a bad defensive team as currently constructed, their current version of themselves. Are they capable of more? I think they are. And it starts with just getting that urgency, that toughness back. But they're getting beat off the dribble. It's a layup line to the rim. At least it was against Penn State. We've seen that against some other teams as well. It was just that jarring and exaggerated against the Nittany Lions. So we'll see how they respond. Brad Underwood, as far as we can tell, what we heard from him yesterday, what we heard from Luke Goody, really challenged them with a quote-unquote Brad Underwood practice on Thursday. It sounded like it went extra long. It was extra intense. Luke said he was sore. He also said the treadmill was out and operational. So we'll see if Brad got this team's attention. You'd hope that an older group, a team that has so many guys playing in their last ride in college basketball, didn't need those type of things that, sometimes you want from a head coach who is dealing with an immature team, a team that needs to learn a little bit more. But
like last year.
Right. But then again, there's time to fix it. We'll see what the effort looks like today. Oh, by the way, Iowa is outstanding offensively.
Yeah.
And you're really going to have to be so much better to win this game.
Top 20 team offensively, right, in efficiency. We'll see where that goes. Illinois, of course, the top 10 team in efficiency in the country. The offense, not the issue here. We talked at the beginning of the season, I felt like the defense was pretty good, and the numbers showed that. So is this a quote-unquote effort thing like Brad had said? Is there some schematic issue that you think goes into that? How do you see that playing together on how they try and go about fixing that?
I think it's a mix of things. I think some of it is correctable. I think some of it is just probably flaws in the team makeup. Now, you have a great offensive team. You have a guy like Coleman Hawkins who has some very known strengths defensively, defending in space, switching, his length, his activity. In that game, that wasn't who Coleman's been throughout the course of the season, obviously, but he has had some issues defending around the rim. That's just not who he really is. He's not a true five, a true rim protector. So they're giving up a lot at the basket. And Coleman's not going to take that away for the most part. Luke Goody's not the most fleet of foot. I think he had good effort against Penn State. I thought he actually defended better than a lot of other guys in that game, but he's been a liability at times. Marcus Amass against some quicker guys. So those are things that I don't think can necessarily get fixed. Scheme-wise, I do, as far as I look at it, I don't love how far back Coleman's playing in drop. I think he's gotten a little too passive in that because you're kind of taking away his strength. I get playing Kofi that far back. I get playing a guy like Zach Hughes that far back. I think Coleman's value is getting out and being active and switching and blitzing a guy and then recovering. So if I'm Illinois, I'm trying to play a little bit more to a guy who has known strength, play a little bit more to his strengths as far as that goes. But then also, there's some very fundamental stuff. Guarding the basketball, not letting your guy get past you, not giving up layups on inbounds passes, communicating, not blowing a bunch of switches.
Right.
Those are very common elementary type stuff at this level that Illinois should not be making mistakes with, especially for an older team. So they should and can fix that stuff. Will Brad tweak some things schematically? He said that they made a few adjustments yesterday. We'll see how drastic that is and what exactly that entails. And then some other stuff. I think Illinois is not going to be an elite defensive team because of some of those other shortcomings. But they can be so much better than they are right now. And knowing, like you mentioned, how good they are offensively. If they were just an average defensive team, this would be a really, really good basketball team.
Right, and let's put it all in context. Like, they're still a top 25 team.
Right.
Like,
yes.
It's not like there's some awful team, right? Like, they're still very high in KenPom and all of the metrics. Bart Torvik still love them. They just, I think from our perspective of what even they have told us, right, their expectations and everything else is to be better. They have aspirations to be a second weekend team. And to do that, in my eyes, it's really hard to make that happen when you don't play, at least just like you said, average defense. Yeah, they can outscore some teams. And look, maybe this game's in the 90s today. I don't know. Like, it could be. But at the same point, like, long term, that ain't a recipe for success in March. Like, that's been proven time and time again.
No doubt. There have been a few one-off examples of teams that are very skewed to one side or the other because of offense or defense. Like San Diego State last year goes to the title game, a very good defensive team, not a great offensive team. Miami last year, very good offensively. Their metrics defensively were pretty poor. They had to outscore a team like Houston. They put 89 on them. They just outgunned them. When your offense is that good, sometimes you do make that run. Sometimes.
Right? Like, it can work. You're just, in my eyes, it's like long term that ain't working.
Exactly. Yeah. In terms of it being repeatable and the larger sample sizes, teams like that. You think about an Iowa squad through the years, even as good as they were with Luka Garza, Joe Sweetscamp, we saw the Murray twins at a different point as well. Very good offensive teams, terrible defensively. They haven't made it out of the first weekend either. So those type of examples are more common if you are that flawed at one end of the floor. All it would take is for an athletic team that can match with Terrence Shannon or an off night shooting, and if Illinois is this bad defensively, they're done. They're done, even against a 13 seed if they're a 4. So that has to get fixed for sure as much as possible. So on the note of the metrics, though, like you said, so KenPom has them 12th in the country, the net ranking at the 16th. But if you look at Bart Torvik over the last month or even a larger sample size, they're in the hundreds in defense. So the analytics are saying this is a bad defensive team during that stretch, even though the full sample size says, yes, it's one of the top 20 teams in the country, but they are very flawed, and the numbers show that as part of the defense.
A lot of those early season wins kind of carry a little bit of weight coming into that, right? So, look, I think they're going to be okay, right? Like, they haven't lost back-to-back games all season. If you lose today, quad 2 loss, I believe it would be. I think there's some more questions like going on there of like, okay, well, how are you really kind of like viewing this as you head towards March? March is like this week, right? Next week, we're here to March. So it's like, now's the time. Like, you still got a little time to figure some things out, but you only got 5 games left in the Big Ten regular season here. Time winding down. And I think the sticky part about Wednesday, Derek, at least I don't know what your perspective is, they're pretty much out of the Big Ten race at this point. Like, Purdue's not losing twice. Even if they beat Purdue here on March 5th, like, I don't see Purdue losing again with their schedule. I think that's the hang-up for fans. Like, I think they knew that's probably it for a Big Ten title. And look, was it a stretch anyway to even think about that? Maybe. But, like, they were in it, so like I get the hang up there about Wednesday.
Yeah, and Ohio State did them a huge favor.
Huge,
that's
right?
The problem.
Right there in front of you.
That you were 1 game back in the loss column with a Purdue matchup scheduled on your home floor. I know it's not. There's a lot more to it than as far as the goals beyond the Big Ten title, win or loss. Even if you clinch the share of the Big Ten, which would be a big deal. Don't get me wrong.
No doubt.
But you'd still need it in March to get to the second weekend, to get that monkey off your back, to quiet some of the mutterings around the fan base and whatnot. But that's kind of the big picture part is even as Illinois maybe looks pretty solidified in that 4 or 5 range, yes, they could go on a slide here, lose a game like this, not win on the road at Iowa in the regular season finale or at Wisconsin, drop a game against Purdue. Maybe you would slide down to a 6, But I think it's more about the recent form, just the overall eye test, the momentum, whether it's there or not. Because if you are in that 4-5, look, 5s get upset all the time. It's probably the most common upset in the first round. And then if you are in a situation where it's a 4-5 matchup, that's pretty much a toss-up game that you're going against a team that's pretty much eye level with you. So it is more about just kind of the overall feeling about this team. You do got to take care of business and get some momentum going, and part of that is taking care of business on your home floor. So there is 5 games left in the regular season. There's time to get some things worked out. This is a good basketball team with plenty of pieces to go on that run. And that's the thing, like, they're still okay. But this season wasn't supposed to be about being okay. It's supposed to be about gearing up for a run. And as of right now, that Penn State game put a decent amount of doubt in people's minds.
And does that, like, in your eyes, knock you down to a 4, like bottom 4, maybe a 5? I mean, how do you view that? Because, look, if you're 4 or 5, I'd rather be a 6 at that point.
No.
Like 3 or 6 is my ideal look there of where you'd like to be. I don't think 3's out of the question, but you got to beat Purdue and you probably got to beat Wisconsin at that point, right?
Yeah, I would think so. 3 is still attainable if you go on a run here. Obviously, you can't lose at home, I don't think. And you need that high-end quad 1 win, in my opinion, by beating Purdue. That would really help to vault you. It would depend on some of the teams in front of you as far as if you have more work to do in the Big Ten tournament. But then again, if you're going on a little bit of that streak, you could be the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. You'd have to probably beat Wisconsin again, but it'd be a team to be expected to probably get to Sunday and rematch with Purdue. Of course, you never know in a situation like that. But yeah, bracket matrix right now kind of takes the consensus of all the different prognostications. Has them as a lower end 4 seed right now. Could drop to a 5, but they would probably need to go, lose probably this game, lose at Iowa, lose to Purdue, to then really drop to a 6, which obviously could happen. But I'm with you. It may not be the worst thing in terms of the matchups that you'd face, but it would definitely really diminish any kind of confidence in this team being trustworthy as you go into postseason play.
Right. And I get the eggs, right? But, like, let's keep it in perspective of, this team was in the 8-9 game last year. There's, like, still really positive things. You just want to get a couple more of those, at least one more marquee win. And if you have a double bye in the Big Ten tournament, likely you're going to have another opportunity on that Friday to have another chance at a quad 1 win or a marquee win on a neutral court there. So we'll see how that plays out. You mentioned that the defense getting back cut. Justin Harmon 4 or 5 times. Like, it was not good there. We can talk about him, but, like, to me, Quincy Guerrier is the guy where, hello, I got a ball coming in here.
On the floor, Brett.
That was close. Like, I just foot saved there. It was close. Justin's one thing. We can talk about him. Quincy, to me, though, is the guy where it's like, hey, look, if this team is going to be elevated and play at a higher level, in my eyes, it starts with him because he has not played that consistent type that we saw a month ago where he was a double-double machine there.
He really was. I know that he had 5 double-doubles in that 7-game stretch in January, and that's really evaporated in terms of his tenacity and his activity. And he's been a liability defensively. It seems like a guy that's out of position a lot of times, seems to be lunging and just out of sorts. I know he's got a little one at home. I can relate a little bit to that. So if I'm messing up on the show, I'm like, give him a pass a little bit. But no, Illinois needs him to really click into place because he's supposed to be that answer at the 4. And in terms of a matchup today, I think it's really important. When you look at Iowa, they play Owen Freeman at the 5, Ben Crickey at the 4, transferred from Valpo, coming off probably one of his best games of the season. I think 18 points, 14 rebounds against Michigan State. The last one, the guy that's 6'9", 235, 240, physical. I wouldn't want to see Luke Goody trying to guard him on back downs.
No doubt.
Even Ty Rogers is giving up some size. So I think Quincy on him is really key. And Quincy's just been that guy because offensively speaking, I know this team doesn't have any problems, but when you can rely on, it's a pretty good big 3 of Terrence, Coleman, and Damask. Yeah. And then if you mix Quincy in there, like, this is a really tough basketball team. So they need a lot more from Quincy in terms of focus and energy. And then Justin Harmon, the back cuts were embarrassing. And Iowa's a really, really good cutting team. Always a great offensive team. The difference part about them this year is they don't shoot as many threes. They want to go to the rim. Okay. Part of that is dribble drives. Part of that is Peyton Sanford's one of the best cutters in the Big Ten, I think. The way he moves without the ball, he comes off a lot of screens. And they got some other guys. Josh Dix will do it too. And it's just about being in good position, knowing scouting report, knowing the actions they like to run, and having your head on a swivel and not getting caught sleeping. That's what happened on Wednesday with Justin.
And even though I think Illinois was +4 in points in the paint at Penn State, it just felt like Penn State had the advantage in the post.
Yeah.
You take away all the Terrence Shannon layups and the drives and all of that, and that number would have been skewed a lot more towards Penn State at that layup line. And so a little different feel. I feel like Iowa a couple of years ago just taking 25, 33s a game, so maybe a little different Iowa team today. And remember, Illinois sees Iowa at 1:15 on Big Ten Network this afternoon, and then they have to go to Iowa City, the final game of the regular season, March 10th, I believe that day is, in Iowa City to wrap it up. So we're going to get the Hawkeyes here twice in the next 2 weeks or thereabouts. All right, who else on Iowa? You mentioned Freeman. Maybe he's the Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
Yeah.
He is really, really playing well. He's an Illinois kid. Tony Perkins has been an Illini killer in the past. Who are some other guys on these Hawkeyes that you're looking out for, saying, hey, look, whether that's in the past or what they've done this year? You mentioned Krakey. They got some dudes that can really elevate their team and maybe play a little better than their 16-11 record.
Yeah, they got a lot of options offensively for sure. Not a very good defensive team. You can pretty much parachute into any season of Fran McCaffrey and say that, but they can outscore you. And that's something that Illinois, if they're not locked in, this could be a shootout in the 90s, and Iowa very capable of outscoring you. So among some of the guys you did mention, to expand on it, Owen Freeman, yeah, I saw him in high school. I knew that he was a skilled player, a big man that can do a lot of things like off the dribble and skilled around the basket, but I just wondered about his toughness, his physicality. It's been impressive that he's gotten that out of himself. He does get into foul trouble a decent amount, so that's one thing that I'd love to see Illinois, especially with Terrence's downhill drives. Iowa probably plays a decent amount of zone today. If Freeman's waiting for him at the rim, maybe you can get him in foul trouble, get him off the floor. He only played 8 minutes against Michigan State on Tuesday because he got foul trouble. So, but I mean, against Wisconsin that previous game, they went into overtime, 20 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks.
Wow.
That was a stellar outing from him.
Did Illinois offer him?
They did offer him, but then backed off.
Okay, that's interesting.
He got he probably got half the Big Ten to offer him. And then it was before his junior season out in the summer. A lot of Big Ten coaches saw him, and he just was not assertive, didn't look like a very, very tough guy. And I think outside of Iowa, maybe another team in that mix, the rest of them kind of slow played him and kind of took a step back, wanted to see more. Iowa, to their credit, evaluated, said, we'll take the offensive skill, we're worth it. And Brad mentioned yesterday, Fran does an outstanding job getting the most out of guys, even some under-the-radar dudes like Luka Garza being like a 3-star from Washington, D.C., the Murray twins. So Coleman's going to have his hands full against Owen. I do like the fact that Owen's not a bruiser inside. I think that Coleman's had that tendency to kind of get muscled a little bit. Sure. I mean, he's not a traditional 5, but a little bit of like size between those two. Hopefully that is better for Coleman Hawkins. Just better activity too. So Krakey, he's got that physicality as a 4-man. I do like, as a non-starter, Patrick McCaffrey, familiar name, had been a starter in the past, has played better of late. He had been hurt in the previous points in this season, but I think he had 14 off the bench against Michigan State, a guy that's driving the ball to the rim a lot. So between Perkins' downhill ability, also good in the mid-range, draws a lot of fouls. Sanford, not just a shooter, a cutter, can go to the basket. That's where they have an ability to work into the paint a lot more than previous Iowa teams, and Illinois got to turn up that intensity and on-ball toughness today.
You mentioned Peyton Sanford. I mean, he's lighting it up from 3, though, right? He's a guy that you mentioned can drive a little bit, but is he their lone 3-point shooter in a sense, or like a guy that they're going to go to from beyond the arc?
They have a number of guys that can go to. Sanford leads the Big Ten in 3-point makes this year, so he's certainly got an ability to rattle off 5 or 6. They do a really good job of running him off screens. They get him on pin down. They get him on flare screens to open him up. So it's not just, I think Illinois has traditionally done a really good job on spot-up stagnant shooters. That's not to be a knock on that, but when you position them as a spot-up, someone has to help off. So they're really keyed in and locked in on that. But this is a different challenge to the way they put him in actions, free him up. And if you play too far up on him on the perimeter, he'll cut you. So I think he can get going from 3. Josh Dix is another guy that's shooting 40+% from 3 for them as well. So Tony Perkins isn't really a 3-point shooter. He's more of that mid-range, into the paint type of guy. But is this a team that still can shoot it some, just not traditionally where they're going to rely on it so much. But yeah, Sanford is definitely a dead-eye knockdown shooter, quick release, doesn't need a lot of space to get going.
I remember Perkins, was it 2 years ago or last year? Dropped like 30 at them. I mean, that mid-range, they couldn't guard him in that. Like, he was absolutely deadly from that. So we'll see how that plays out today.
On that note, I think it's going to be interesting, the choice, who to stick Terrence on.
Yeah.
Do you want him on Perkins? I think that's probably where I would go, knowing his physicality. I think Terrence has been the best ball screen defender on Illinois' team. That's something that's an action they really struggle with. But then also you could say Peyton Sanford's a guy that if he goes off, it's going to hurt us. A quick stat for you: when Peyton Sanford scores 20 or more points, Iowa is 5-1 against high-major teams. When he doesn't, they're 4-10.
Wow.
So that's kind of one of those. If he gets going, they can beat just about anybody. When he doesn't, they're a lot more susceptible.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out this afternoon. 1:15 tip on Big Ten Network. Sold out crowd. We've got quite a bit of orange in here this afternoon. They're labeling this as the orange out, Derek. So we'll see how the crowd. I would expect not only a sold out crowd, but I would expect it to be full in here. 1:15 on a Saturday. You're playing Iowa. There's plenty of history there. DeMonte Williams, he loves himself some Iowa.
Oh yeah. Deion Thomas.
Yeah, man. Like maybe he'll be here.
I don't think he loves himself some Iowa, but yeah, DeMonte for sure. Maybe Connor McCaffrey.
That was forehead, right? That was 2019, wasn't it? Was that right before?
It was the
last game in here?
The 1920 season. Yeah, last game of the year here.
Yeah, that was. In one sense, that seems like a long time ago, and in the other way, it's like. That was just yesterday, I don't know. Good time.
They would have probably met. They would have met in the Big Ten tournament in Indy that next week. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that.
Woo! That would have been a lot of fun. All right. 3 keys and a pick. What are we thinking today, Derek?
High-scoring game, a lot of tempo. Iowa is 20th in the country in offensive pace. When they get stopped, they definitely going to look to run. I think for Illinois, I would imagine that Iowa, they don't really have a great one-on-one matchup for Terrence. They mix man and zone. They'll play a lot of zone today, 2-3 zone. They don't want to make shots from the outside. Also, can they not settle for just the easy ones that come against the zone? Can they move it? Can they penetrate it? Get Coleman in the middle of that zone too. So Illinois should score at will. Like the fact that they're a top 5 offense in the country, Iowa's hemorrhaging points as well as Illinois is. So I think that Illinois should have a fine day offensively. It's just whether they get the response that Brad is asking for in terms of their defense. So I think Brad gets that fire lit. I think they played hard today. Execution and effort are different things. So I think they maybe make some mistakes. Iowa's capable enough to hurt you even if you are pretty sound. I just think they play hard today and probably punch Iowa a little bit early. So I like the Illini in this one. It's about a 9.5, 10-point spread. I'm kind of right in line with that. 92-82 Illinois today.
Okay. I think first to 90 wins. I'll say that. And look, that's probably usually the case in any basketball game in college, right? Like if you score 90, you're probably going to win the game. I'll say Illinois 93, Iowa 87. I think they're going to score. Look, I think Brad, like you said, execution and effort, 2 different things. Can they just be aware? Like, you're not always going to make the play, right? I mean, we've seen games where Illinois, I thought, has played pretty good defense. The other team still scores in the 70s. Like, that's okay. This isn't like the Bruce Weber 38-33 Penn State grinded out 2008 game, all right, or 2009. Like, I think in my eyes, you can still play okay defense and it be a flow game in the 70s or 80s. I think that's still the case. But I do think Iowa's pretty good. And the thing that stands out to me, Derek, Iowa's hungry, right? Like they are on the wrong side of the bubble at this point. But I think they've got a chance here coming off back-to-back wins, Wisconsin and Michigan State, that they can play themselves into a conversation where they're one of the last 4 in or on that bubble. And at this time of year, that means just as much to me as anything. Where do you stand in that bubble conversation? And Iowa's right on the hang end of that.
They really are. Yeah, this would be the biggest win of their season. A team that doesn't have a lot of quad 1 wins. They got one obviously at Breslin Center earlier this week. To get this, too, would be huge. And then they get Illinois at home, quad 1. They also play on the road at Northwestern to quad 1, too. So Fran hasn't missed the tournament in a while. I think they've made 4 or 5 straight tournaments. And he has them playing well at the right time. Can they sustain it? Can they get enough stops? It's a question. But yeah, Illinois is going to get their best points. They're going to be really hungry, like you said. And if view this as probably the momentum piece, that if they get it, they're probably then right there firmly in the picture on that first 4 out or whatnot. Probably feeling pretty decent. If they don't, then they obviously probably got to go on a deep run in the Big Ten tournament. But Illinois cannot lack anything. And then to circle back on effort execution, I think even if you're not 100% sound, some just intense effort to clean up a lot for Illinois and really make it a better defensive showing. So without it, Iowa scored 90 in their sleep, and they probably beat you. So.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's without question. The biggest question, though, maybe that we should have led with here, Joey got called out by Brad yesterday saying he couldn't handle a Brad Underwood practice. Listen, I'm pretty mentally tough. Maybe I could hang for a couple minutes. Physically, no chance.
Yeah.
Could you hang on a Brad Underwood practice? How long could you go?
Not physically, no.
Joey's a known quitter, so
He took that one personally a little bit. There's different interpretations. Some are saying Brad doesn't want him. He was kind of saying Brad doesn't want him in there because of obviously what he'd hear over here as far as what Brad's saying, or that he just thinks Joey's soft, which
is probably also true.
We'll leave that up to interpretation.
Joey admits it that he's soft.
Yeah.
So that's
I haven't been on the treadmill as much as I should, so I think that would hurt me. I think I'd be toast.
You get sick of the treadmill, and it'd be over, right?
That'd be it.
That'd be it.
Send me back a diaper change table. I'll take that over the table.
Are you like a pro at that now? Because is Kate out of diapers yet?
No.
You got 2 in diapers. Man.
Yeah, we're like a NASCAR pit
God
crew.
bless this man.
I'm getting the work in, but
so you're a pro.
It's the life. I think so. As much as you can go pro, they've had the commercials. You can go pro in something other than sports. Maybe I can go pro in diaper changing.
All right, all good stuff for Derek. I'm Brett. Thanks so much for watching the Your Illini Nation pregame show. We'll have Coach Underwood's full post-game press conference on these same digital channels right after the game. Join us here on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. 1:15 tip on Big Ten Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.
Both Reagan and Cameron hold GPAs above a 3.2.